They've told you your whole life that humans use just 10% of their brains. Movies, books, even teachers have repeated it like gospel. But here's the twist. It's a complete myth. And the truth about what your brain is really doing every second is far stranger, more powerful, and even a little terrifying. By the end of this, you'll never look at your own thoughts the same way again. So tell me, if you could unlock the other 90%, what would you do first? For more than a century, the 10% brain myth has been one of the most persistent and seductive ideas in popular culture. It suggests that the vast majority of your brain, a full 90%, is lying dormant, like a vast mansion where you've only ever opened one room. It implies hidden powers, untapped genius, and the potential to become superhuman if only we could unlock the rest. But where did this idea even come from? Some historians trace it back to the late 19th century, when psychologist William James once remarked that we are making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources. It was a philosophical comment about human potential, not a neuroscientific fact. Yet over the decades, his words were misquoted, oversimplified, and eventually warped into, we only use 10% of our brains. Then came the 20th century. Self-help, gurus, motivational speakers, and even some scientists, hungry for a captivating hook, repeated the claim until it became common knowledge. By the time movies like Lucy and Limitless came along, the myth wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. People loved the idea that they could suddenly unlock telepathy, photographic memory, or Einstein-level genius by accessing the rest of their brain. Here's the problem. Modern neuroscience has completely destroyed this idea. Brain scans, from EEGs to fMRIs, show that even simple activities, like reading this sentence, light up multiple areas of your brain. Walking, listening to music, or even daydreaming activate complex networks that span across HEM, ISPHERES. The brain is always active, even during sleep. Your default mode network, a sort of mental background process, runs continuously, organizing memories, processing emotions, and predicting the future based on past experience. In other words, you're not leaving 90% of your brain in storage. You're using all of it, just not all at once. But here's the twist that keeps the myth alive. While the 10% number is false, it's true that we often fail to use our brain's full potential. We might not be operating at maximum efficiency, or we might be limiting ourselves through habits, lack of challenge, or fear of failure. That psychological underuse, not biological, is where the myth's seductive power lies. And there's another layer. The brain is made up of around 86 billion neurons, each connecting to thousands of others, forming an unimaginable network. The sheer complexity means that, in many ways, we've only scratched the surface of understanding how it works. Even neuroscientists admit that large portions of the brain's activity remain a mystery dot. So yes, you're using 100% of your brain physically. But are you tapping into its true capacity? That's where things get interesting. Some research suggests that by changing the way we learn, think, and experience the world, we can actually rewire our neural pathways, a concept called neuroplasticity. And that's where the door opens for the next part of our journey. How training, environment, and technology could allow us to think faster, remember more, and even reshape who we are. What if the real hidden power isn't about switching on unused brain parts, but about amplifying what's already running? Because if that's true, the potential might be even more incredible than the myth ever promised. Imagine the inside of a Formula One engine. Every piston, valve, and spark is designed to work in perfect timing, each part contributing to the race-winning speed of the car. Your brain operates the same way, except it's infinitely more complex. When scientists measure brain activity during tasks, they find something surprising. Even simple actions can light up an astonishing range of regions. For example, holding a pen isn't just about motor control. Your sensory cortex is processing the feel of the pen. Your occipital lobe is checking its position in space. Your cerebellum is fine-tuning your grip, and your frontal lobe is deciding what you'll write. Dozens of brain areas coordinate in milliseconds, all without you thinking about it. Now, push the system to its limits, and the coordination becomes even more spectacular. Think of a concert pianist performing a fast, complex piece. Their motor cortex is firing off rapid, precise commands to their fingers. Their auditory cortex is analyzing the music in real time. Their prefrontal cortex is making micro-decisions about dynamics and timing, and their limbic system is interpreting the emotional flow of the piece. At that moment, their brain is running full throttle. Here's the kicker. You don't have to be a musical prodigy to push your brain into overdrive. Anytime you're learning something new, juggling, coding, cooking a recipe you've never tried, you're forcing multiple brain systems to fire together in new patterns. This is when neuroplasticity kicks in, strengthening pathways and building connections that didn't exist before. But there's a reason we don't live in this full throttle state 24/7. The brain is a huge energy hog. Even at rest, it consumes about 20% of your body's energy, despite weighing only 2% of your body mass. Running it at max capacity all the time would be like redlining your car engine nonstop. Powerful, but unsustainable. So your brain balances. Periods of intense focus with lower power states like daydreaming, reflection, and sleep, all of which are just as vital for creativity and problem solving. The 10% myth falls apart here, because in truth, your brain is never sitting idle. It's either processing, repairing, or rewiring. The difference between an average brain and a peak performance brain isn't unused space. It's how efficiently and effectively the networks are working. And that brings us to a fascinating discovery. Some people seem to train their brains into states of extreme performance more often than others. Elite athletes, chess grandmasters, and even certain surgeons have been shown to activate highly efficient neural loops, shaving milliseconds off reaction times and making decisions with remarkable accuracy under pressure. The real question is, can anyone learn to do this? The answer is looking more and more like yes. Scientists are experimenting with neurofeedback training, brainwave entrainment, and even non-invasive electrical stimulation to nudge the brain into these high-performance states on demand. The early results are jaw-dropping, but they also raise deep questions about ethics, inequality, and what it means to be human when mental performance can be boosted at will. Because if we can push our brain to run faster, sharper, and more creatively, what happens when some people choose not to? That's where our next chapter dives in. The hidden costs of a turbocharged mind. Pushing your brain into high-performance mode sounds like a superpower, but like any superpower, it comes with trade dash-offs. One of the first things scientists noticed in people who routinely operate at extreme mental speeds is mental fatigue. Not just, I need a nap, tiredness, but deep, system-wide exhaustion. When your brain runs hot for too long, it starts to burn through glucose and oxygen faster than your body can replenish them. This can lead to headaches, mood swings, and even temporary cognitive dips, like a high-performance computer overheating and throttling down. In some cases, the costs aren't just physical. Mental overdrive can narrow your focus so much that you lose sight of the bigger picture. Chess grandmasters can see 10 moves ahead on the board, but they sometimes miss the social cues of the person sitting across from them. Elite coders can solve problems in minutes that would take others hours, but forget to eat, sleep, or answer a simple text from a friend. Then there's emotional strain. Activating more brain circuits often means pulling more from the limbic system, the brain's emotional command center. This can make experiences feel sharper, more intense, and more overwhelming. Artists who enter deep flow states sometimes describe the crash afterward as a kind of emotional hangover. The biggest risk, though, is adaptation. Once your brain gets used to operating at an artificially high gear, whether through intense training, stimulants, or experimental tech, normal mental speed can feel unbearably slow. Think of it like driving a sports car at 200 miles per hour, then switching to a bicycle. That gap can lead to frustration, boredom, and even depression. And here's where the ethical debate heats up. If tools like neurofeedback or brain stimulation become widely available, will people feel pressured to use them just to keep up? Imagine a future where average mental performance is seen as laziness, and the only way to stay competitive in school or work is to run your brain like an engine on nitrous oxide. History shows we've been here before. From the caffeine trade of the Enlightenment to the widespread use of amphetamines during World War II, humans have always sought ways to go faster, think sharper, and push limits. But each time, society has had to deal with the side effects: addiction, burnout, inequality. The irony? Some of the brain's greatest breakthroughs happen not when it's running flat out, but when it's at rest. Einstein reportedly came up with the theory of relativity while daydreaming about riding a beam of light. Newton conceived the law of gravity while lounging in a garden. These moments didn't come from more power. They came from different rhythms. So maybe the real key isn't about using more of your brain. It's about knowing when to push and when to step back. In our next chapter, we'll explore how your brain is already working behind the scenes in ways that might surprise you, even when you think you're doing nothing at all. When you're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, zoning out in the shower, or waiting for the coffee to finish brewing, you might think your brain has hit the pause button. It hasn't. In fact, scientists discovered that during these resting moments, your brain is still buzzing with activity, sometimes even more than when you're concentrating hard. This is thanks to something called the default mode network, DMN, a web of brain regions that lights up when you're not focused. On the outside world, the DMN is like the brain's backstage crew, invisible during the main show, but absolutely essential. It's where your mind organizes memories, solves problems in the background, and even works through emotional conflicts without you realizing it. Ever had a brilliant idea pop into your head while brushing your teeth? That's your DMN dropping. A gift into your conscious mind. One of the most fascinating things about the DMN is its role in creative thinking. When you stop forcing your brain to solve a problem, it starts making looser, more unexpected connections between ideas, kind that lead to breakthroughs. That's why some scientists, artists, and entrepreneurs swear by productive procrastination, deliberately stepping away from a task to let their subconscious handle it. But the DMN doesn't just work on abstract problems. It's also deeply tied to your sense of self. When active, it pulls pieces of your past, present, and imagined future into a kind of mental collage. This helps you rehearse upcoming events, reflect on past mistakes, and maintain a stable identity. Without it, you'd struggle to plan your day or even remember who you are. There's also a darker side. An overactive DMN is linked to rumination, the endless mental replay of regrets, worries, and worst-case scenarios. This is one reason meditation and mindfulness can be so powerful. They quiet the DMN when it's looping in unhealthy ways, giving your mind a break from itself. What's remarkable is how much energy the DMN consumes. Even when you're doing nothing, it can burn through as much as 20% of your body's resting energy. That's the equivalent of leaving a high-end laptop running a dozen background processes while the screen's off. And here's the kicker. Some researchers believe that tapping into the DMN's hidden work without letting it spiral into rumination could be one of the most effective ways to boost overall intelligence and creativity. Not by using more of your brain, but by using the right parts at the right time. In the final chapter, we'll put everything together, busting the 10% myth for good, showing what's really possible, and revealing why your brain is already more powerful than you think. Let's get this out of the way. The idea that we only use 10% of our brain is not just wrong, it's impossible. Here's why. Your brain is a living network of about 86 billion neurons, each connecting to thousands of others, forming trillions of pathways. Even the smallest actions, blinking, remembering a smell, feeling your phone buzz in your pocket, require a symphony of neural activity across multiple regions. Brain scans show that no part of the brain is ever completely silent. Even during sleep, entire systems light up. The hippocampus organizes memories. The brainstem regulates breathing. The visual cortex processes dream imagery. You are using all of your brain, just not all at the same time. Think of it like a city. Not every street, building, and park is in use at every second, but over the course of a day, the whole city is active. And just like a city, the brain's different neighborhoods specialize in certain jobs, language, movement, emotion, decision-making. So where did the 10% myth even come from? Historians suspect it started in the early 1900s when scientists misunderstood or oversimplified research about brain function. The idea stuck because it sounded exciting, as if unlocking some hidden 90% could turn you into a genius or a superhero. Hollywood loved it. Neuroscience? Not so much. The truth is more interesting. Your brain already has the capacity to adapt and rewire itself, something called neuroplasticity. When you learn a new skill, recover from injury, or practice a habit, you're not tapping into an unused reservoir. You're reshaping the existing network to work better. That's way more powerful than the fantasy of a dormant brain superpower. And here's the real secret. If you want to use more of your brain, don't wait for science fiction. Challenge it. Feed it new experiences. Learn a language. Play an instrument. Debate someone who disagrees with you. Exercise. Meditate. Each of these activities literally rewires and strengthens the neural pathways you already have. You don't need the other 90%. You need to master the 100% you're already using. The myth made you believe your brain had limits. The truth should make you realize it doesn't. The only limit is how much you choose to engage with the world around you. So, the next time someone tells you we only use 10% of our brain, you can smile and say, no, we use all of it. The question is, how well? Now I'm curious. If you could instantly master one skill and rewire your brain for it, what would you choose? Drop it in the comments and let's see which skill our community would supercharge first.